we are going to be talking about Si's favourite man, Daniel Levy. And look, Daniel Levy's just taken another bonus, £3 million, I think it was. His first bonus since the completion of the stadium, I think in 2019, where he took a $3 million bonus. Royce, I see you shaking your head there, so we'll go to you first. Do you think that bonus for Daniel Levy is justified? And give me the reasons why you think that.
Short answer, absolutely not. No, I would say that bonus was not deserved. To me, there hasn't been enough evidence on the pitch, especially when you consider how last season went. I really find it tough to believe that he was deserving of that. If there was one thing that he would be deserving of the bonus for, would be appointing Ange Postecoglou. I think that's the best decision that he has made for this club in years. I would almost say.
Since hiring Poch.
Right. So when you consider how the season ticket prices as well also increased, it's like, Levy, what was this all a ploy for you to get yourself another bonus? Like, what's going on here? No, I would say for me, it's tough to say that it's how does somebody in the ownership group justify a bonus? But at the same time, I really don't think that it was deserved, especially when you consider the raise in the season ticket prices.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, to be fair. But Si, what's your thoughts?
Well, yeah, it's kind of on the level really of politicians, bankers to the highest level, where you always saw those obscure bonuses despite either giant profits or in some cases losses, but still able to take a humongous bonus. I remember the days of retail when BHS and all that were around, when you've got employees working their asses off and then being laid off, but it's okay. The boss of the company can just take a few million out, no questions asked. And it's a bit of a further kick in the teeth, in the sense that the man should be, in my opinion, trying to appease fans as much as possible over these last 20 odd years of arguably, it sense, failure most of the time. I could understand some of that bonus being attributed to the commercial aspect, because I've hand on heart always said that it's very hard to find an amazing businessman as Daniel Levy is. Like, he is phenomenal at what he does in terms of the monetary perspectives. However, as a football club, as fans, and we've talked about this numerous occasions in the past, about that loyalty aspect has gone out the window. The diehard fans are getting more and more stressed out about everything and how things have been going, and still arguably continue. We've had the Levy out aspects of that, and it did sort of reverse itself a bit with new staff coming in to take over footballing matters, etc., etc. So there's definitely good paths that have been put in there. It's still not good enough. It still needs to be improved upon. But this whole point of the bonus comes at I don't know, again, I've said this many times as well, I don't know who their PR team are, but they really need to start looking at things in a bit more detail. They can't obviously stop his bonus, but for God's sakes, 2 weeks ago, telling people that the prices are going up, especially to senior citizens, which is an absolute disgrace. I have many things I could say on that point, to then come out and go, oh yeah, 3 million, because it doesn't take a genius to split that 3 million out, or at least say, okay, the X amount of hundreds of pounds that you're trying to charge more people for, particularly senior citizens in this instance of conversation, is actually, you could take 1 million of that and help a lot more towards the fans. Now, it's a bit of a difficult scenario, because you could argue that, well, if you're in that position, would you take it? Well, I'm pretty sure most people would, because of the amount that it is. Even if it was 100,000, people are going to probably still question it, or 500,000. Obviously, it's a lot less than 3 million. It's still a big amount. And that conversation has been not even just in football, not even just as Spurs fans with Daniel Levy. It's been across the board with governments, politicians, bankers, as I've said, where it's been scrutinized. People complain and whine about it. They're not going to give the money back. So it's just one of those things. Once again, we have to suck up and just understand that this is the kind of owner that we have, or consortium that we have in charge, that will see the football club purely and solely as a business. Ultimately, that's all they worry about. And they would take their dividends, they would take their shares like any other business owner or director would of any company. It just so happens that they had a very lucrative year or so with developments of concerts and everything else that's going on, that he has been rewarded for that element of it. On the pitch, we are still questioning this. Yes, you should not be giving good bonuses out just because you picked a good manager, which, by the way, probably was nowhere near the top 5 choices, in my opinion. And it just so happened it paid off, like Pochettino did, who again was not a first choice manager. So there's ducks in the line in the sense that he can just turn around and go, well, everything's going well, Spurs fans can pipe down now, stop singing Levy out, which is what we always do. We go into these phases of going crazy with protests, and then it goes quiet because we're in a transitional period, give people time, and then we'll be probably back to this square again in the future. But the Levy out thing we can kind of put aside for a second, in the sense that you're taking a bonus on the back of all these things that you're doing to loyal fans. And some of these fans, like my dad, have been going since the 50s and 60s. My dad always talks to me about going to those games when he was a kid, 10, 12 years old, watching that 60s team all the way through the crap football that we've had for many decades, in argument's sake, to be then thrown in the face that, oh, well, to be sustainable, we need to do this. Well, hang on a minute. You're telling us you're making 15 million off these concerts. You're now taking 3 million out for your own pocket to do whatever you want with. But it's okay to take, which, a few £100 to most people is a lot of money that they now have to come up with to try and watch their team. And in this instance of, it's across the board, of course, but for senior citizens in particular, we're talking about all these pension issues and stuff going on in the country, the economy as well. I've got my crypto finance hat on at the moment. I think it's absolutely ludicrous and disgusting that you could take that money. But the poster behind me has been with me for a long time. In order to be in the 1%, you have to do what the 99% don't, and that's exactly what Daniel does. He's taken that 1% initiative to take that 3 million. He doesn't have the empathy. He doesn't have the mindset to think, oh, maybe actually I should. As again, back to that point, no one's really going to do it if they're offered that kind of money, obviously. But there should be something consciously or morally in your mind to sit there and go, well, we have had a bit of a discrepancy with ticket prices, etc. Maybe perhaps we can do a bit of leniency on this bonus. But that's me in a dream la land of where I think I would like to live in a world, but that's just not how it goes. So the answer to your question, long and short of it, is absolutely doesn't deserve that 3 million. And even if it was questionable 1 million or 500, the point is you cannot do these kind of things or have these kind of instances of opportunity if you're going to throw it back in your face. Exactly the same as if you're going to be an employer and you're taking your bonuses, you're taking all your dividends out, but if you're not treating your employees or your customers correctly or appropriately, then you shouldn't be taking that out. But that's just my full opinion. It's not going to change anything. We're not in la land, unfortunately, and it is what it is. But it's, again, another kick in the teeth, and fans will remember this, and they will continue to push for the SOS campaign, which I definitely stand by, of saving our seniors in terms of that price bracket. It's easy if you're not in that price bracket to just ignore it, but one day that will be happening to you, and it should have a further stance on it for sure. I think it's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it, I just think it's a really bad look when you look at everything all together. Even just very recently, the Save Our Seniors, the senior citizen ticket pricing or the non-existent seniors that he's, just completely taken away their discounts. You're talking about a 6% season ticket rise, where at the first chance of something slightly optimistic Spurs have gone through, he's taken that opportunity and raised the ticket prices by quite a significant way. You're looking at the past 5 years, we've just been in the complete wilderness, bad decision after bad decision after bad decision, starting with sacking Pochettino. Well, we even started before then with, not kicking on when we needed to kick on. Yes, he does have some credit in the bank in terms of the stadium. The stadium is unbelievable, but ever since the stadium, or even before the stadium started, it's just been terrible mismanagement of the football club, time and time again. And I've been sick of it. I've been sick of talking about it, to be honest. But to give yourself a bonus now is just a terrible look with everything that's been going on. And I think that if things were going well, Spurs were winning trophies, Spurs were fighting at the top of the league, and things were going all swimmingly, I don't think anyone would have a problem with him taking out bonuses and everything like that. Like, you'd deserve it. He would deserve it if that was the case, but that hasn't been the case. And Spurs have we've gone from fighting for Champions League finals and fighting for league titles to not being in Europe for the first time in God knows how long. So I don't.
It's not a surprise. You go back to the COVID time, mate, and that furlough situation, not paying employees. Back to my exact point, it's the 1% mentality. He may not be in that exact 1% bracket, but it's the mentality of that egotistic manner. Could say sociopath to an extent, like most of them are, but I think it's absolutely disgraceful.
And you could talk about, he's done well on the business side, which is fair enough.
Exactly my point,
but we're a football club, and this football club has hundreds of thousands of fans relying on how well this football team does, and you got to put that in the forefront of your mind. And if this football team's not doing well, then what right does he have to take out a massive bonus of 3 million? 3 million.
This is the problem, mate.
Exactly what Si's point. That they see it as a business. They don't see it as a football club. So when Levy has, and to play devil's advocate and give him credit, when he's done his hardest getting the stadium together, getting the NFL deal, getting the concert deals, getting the F1 deal, getting all these deals that are bringing loads of money to the, let's call it, if they're in his mind, to the business. If I'm growing the business in such a exponential manner, which to be fair he is, and the business has grown, and if I think they announced record revenues recently, now we've broken over $500 million a year in revenue, and that's a lot, and credit where it's due, that is a lot down to Daniel Levy. And so from his mind, he's looking at that and saying, look, I've done all this stuff, I should be getting a bit more because I've brought all this revenue to the club, so I do deserve a bit of a bonus for how hard I've worked, how much all the deals I've done. So why shouldn't I get like if in any other business I would be getting a bonus? So why shouldn't I be getting a bonus in this kind of business? The problem comes when it's come 2 weeks after you've announced that you've raised season ticket prices because you've quote unquote eaten costs since the stadium's been built, and that we need to raise prices because they need this money. When if you make the calculation, the money they're going to be getting from raising the season ticket prices is around 3 million, which is an awkward conversation because that's the 3 million he's getting. So essentially what this looks like is Spurs fans are basically paying for his bonus. That's basically what this has been made to look like. And if he was smart and clever, he probably would have just delayed his bonus a year, so if they don't increase season ticket prices next season, he can take the bonus, and probably not a big thing would have been made of it. But now, because 2 weeks before they've made this announcement, we need to raise season ticket prices, which implies like we're losing so much money, we need to raise the prices, otherwise it's not going to be sustainable. Why not give something back to the fans? At least you've got all these record revenues from the stadium and everything. A lot of it is built off of the back of the fans. Obviously, you get a lot of money from not just the match revenue, but all these other events you're putting on, and yet you want to basically squeeze every last dime you can out of the fans, even if it means that basically it looks like the fans are basically going to be paying for your bonus, which is what's basically what it looks like at the moment, because of the similarities in the price rise to what he's going to be earning. So it's a horrific PR look for the club. I don't think he should be taking a bonus this year, especially like you're implying like we need to raise the prices because we're in a tough financial situation. We need the more money. We need to operate as a club. We can't operate unless we up the prices. And then you basically what you're saying is the price rise is as significant as a bonus you're getting. That is what you're saying is that significant. So how significant is it if it's just a bit of chump change that you're giving yourself at the end of the year? You have to put that on the fans. So it can't be that a significant amount of money that you have to raise, that you have to put the prices up. You're basically saying when you put the price up, it's so significant that would the club get this money, we need to raise the prices for the fans.
It's not sustainable.
And that's not sustainable. And then then a couple of weeks later, you're saying actually that kind of money, I'm taking as a bonus. I'm taking as a, but not even as well. I'm taking as a bonus on top of my wage. That's how significant this money is to you. So that from that point of view is an absolute disgrace that he's put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. But Si, there's the financial results came out yesterday, right? And one of the points in it was to capitalize on our long-term potential, the club requires a significant increase in its equity base. The board and its advisors, Rothschild & Co., are in discussions with prospective investors. What do you make out of that?
Yes.
It's a difficult one because, well, it's ironic. We're talking about the 1%, and they've mentioned the Rothschild Co. At the end of the day, we know definitively that they're trying to sell for the right price. Daniel has come out with that publicly many times that that it's not like up for sale in the window, as it were, but if an interesting offer came in, we would have to look at it. Would that be the percentage allocation like we're seeing at United now with Ratcliffe, or will it be 100% buyout? I mean, there's so many variables there. I wish Sean was on the on this panel right now to explain a bit more detail. But in that instance of how much lucrative debt that we've got in terms of the stadium, it's £1 billion stadium. We've got loans on top of that as well, with a fantastic interest rate of something like 2% for the next 20 years. It's formidable.
So £800 million, I think it is.
It is incredible what he is doing. I've always admired him as a business person, and that kind of aspect of him. But in terms of the investment side of things, I think if you look at the revenue opportunities of these concerts and things, it won't take a genius to understand that actually it's not going to take too long to pay all these things off. I doubt if it will take the whole 20 years. I think they'll do it a lot quicker if they're doing concerts on like that Beyonce level of arguably 15-20 million a time for 3 or 4 sets, and they're doing that a few more times a year. Because bear in mind as well, the event capacity will increase. They'll have the apartments which are starting the building work now as well. You've got 2028 coming up with the tournaments as well. On top of that, it's just going to be lucrative business for them constantly every year. The football side of things, back to the point about football being an entity, is in the sense actually they don't need loyal fans like us anymore. The tourist attraction is there at the end of the day, right? So if I go and sell my season ticket tomorrow, someone will snap it up. Like, you can complain all day long. That's just how football has gone on to be. And football isn't like almost essentially the be or end all for the whole business anymore. That's not to say that they can just forget about football. We'll just focus on these other things at all. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there's now a huge branch off as a company. You've got ENIC, which have sold off the majority of their shares to Levy's group, his family group, essentially. That's why if you look at the proper documentations of the business aspects, you've got like Levy Events and all these other weird names that he's made up over the last few years. Dividends flying left, right and center. Probably tax evasion to some extent, as most people do, to coordinate into
just some casual tax evasion.
Well, like Enron. Look at Enron as a great example. However many years ago that was, of making companies up and passing money. It's all a game, and it's clever how it's all being done. And I think from an investor's perspective, if you're looking outside of Tottenham, you're looking at what's going to be happening from the generation project around the whole area. You're going to be looking at how much money that stadium is making regularly. So when you absorb that debt, how long is it going to take you back? What kind of incremental revenue you're going to make? So it's very interesting to an investor. They were probably in a dilemma now, thinking, wow, maybe it's better than we thought it'd be. Will we actually cling on to this a lot longer? That's all we've known as Spurs fans for the last 20 odd years is Daniel Levy's tenureship. We've never really seen Joe Lewis and what actually goes on behind closed doors, what his actual full relationship is, other than tanking some money in here, there and everywhere, taking some dividends like Daniel does. It could be a prime opportunity, but it always opens up that question, as as a Spurs fan, who do you want as an investor? Do you want the oil money? Do you want the other crazy money that of where it comes from source wise, or do you want someone someone random that's a Spurs fan that's all of a sudden made themselves a multi-billionaire that's going to take over and have a party with us as fans and take us in the direction we would love it to go to? It's a difficult one, but that whole aspect of equity is very interesting because they have had the loans. They're obviously clearly looking, in my opinion, for partial investors. I don't think they would ever sell 100% of that at all because of what it does. It's a machine, and it will continue.
But what does partial investment look like for us as fans? Do you reckon?
Well, I guess it depends on how much leeway they want to give away. I mean, at the end of the day, it's what 51% that you have to have as majority to be the overall conductor of everything. I can't imagine from the egotistic perspective that Daniel would want to give away more than that. So I would anticipate that essentially based on the kind of residual value of this amount, 25-30% is probably something that he would be looking for, and goes back to my point that that's very reflective on a similar amount that Ratcliffe got part of United for, that you've got enough to do something with, enough to be a stakeholder or a shareholder to a significant level, but still everything will have to be signed off by the man himself, Daniel, of course, and any progressive matters. But the stadium's been built, it has been built, obviously. The structure of it is already done. The training facility is already done. An owner that comes in is purely looking at how much revenue you're going to make from all these external things, how much money can I make off this from a dividend perspective or a revenue perspective every year. It's not like they have to come in and go, oh God, we need to build a new stadium, we need to do this, and this. It's already been planned, it's already been done. You're just injecting some money in with some lucrative return on it over 5, 10, 15, however many years it is. So that's where I see it. I just cannot envision him selling 100% off, and I don't think there's many people out there that can just go, yeah, here's 5-6 billion, let's go and have some fun with this. There are some, but I wouldn't really want to personally welcome that kind of ownership. It would put in question, is Daniel's ownership better than what that ownership could be like? That's where it's always like the grass isn't always greener, but equally we know that things could improve, and especially towards fans. But it's always that looped back point that the fans don't really matter much anymore. They're going to fill the seats regardless. It's great marketing, great advertising, great attraction from around the world. People are flying around the world to come to these games every week. If we don't have our seats taken, someone else will take them, and that's just how football is today. So it is soul destroying sometimes, but it's the reality. And I think that's just the interesting point that Tottenham's at now is it's gone such a high level, not on the pitch, but as a magnitude of money making and a commercial entity, is where it's at now, at a crossroads for them probably as to what they want to do with it moving forward. So as fans, where do we sit with that? I don't really think we sit anywhere with it because we have no choice but to just accept what happens.
Royce, do you have any thoughts on the matter?
Yes, I did want to say that it is really disappointing. The bonus, back to what the original point was, when you consider before the stadium was built, what were we told? This is going to bring us so much money. We're going to really see a ton of investment into the club because of this stadium. And then how long did we go without signing players while we were building the stadium?
Yeah.
And so now the stadium is built, and we're having a statement released with Levy saying that we're still going to need additional investment coming off the back of a raise in season ticket prices and his bonus. It's altogether, it is really, really disappointing to see, to be honest. I don't know what the answer, there really isn't an answer, because kind of like what Sai said, I see Levy as someone who really wouldn't sell 100% of the club unless an offer came in that he couldn't refuse. So I think we're just going to have to accept it as our reality for the time being, and just understanding that our owners aren't people right now who are going to be putting an obscene amount of money in a club like you've seen other clubs do around the Premier League recently. But like with Chelsea, with the recent American ownership, it doesn't always work out. Like I think I forgot which one of you had said the grass isn't always greener. It's not always greener, even when you put in a ton of money on the club, into a club. So I don't think the fans should be happy. I think you're justified in being frustrated with Enoch, but it's important to realize who they are and just, stay as positive as you can with that frame of mind, knowing that our ownership isn't really gonna, push the boat on huge signings, I would say. But yeah, no, the bonus really, I'm glad you said that, Ben, the statement about the additional investment, because the bonus in combination with that really frustrated me.
All right, I think we are running out of time, but let me just go through a couple of comments because it won't be a discussion about Levy if Brian Daigle hasn't chimed in, and he's here in the comments, and he says they aren't looking for partial investment. I have heard this so many times. It's all talk to get the fans believing. It's not my first rodeo. We know it's not your first rodeo, Brian. I think it's time to book your flights and get outside that training ground again. And he says, again, follow-up comment, he says, I can go to a Lamborghini showroom and look at a cat. Doesn't mean I'm going to buy it. And we've got a couple of super chats as well. From the Joracle, he says, remember the core business of THFC is to get more of the fans' money. So how good a businessman do you want Levy to be? Big up, lads. And Brian Daigle with a members chat. 41 months as a member, Brian. Come on, son. And he says, Daniel Levy, once again with his sleight of hand tactics, has you looking in one direction whilst doing something in the other direction to screw the fans. Well,
there you go.
Any response to that, Sim?
On a positive note. Lads, and on a positive note today.
He's saying not a cat, a car. Bloody autocorrect. I thought it was a bit strange.